Hey, what's up guys, it's Oakley, and awesome news, they're going to be doing an introducing video. This one is going to be spotlighting the Night Goblin, so I was a little afraid that we wouldn't be seeing more of these in the greenskin roster, but turns out they're here in full force, looking mighty scary. They are kind of small little creatures, but they are devilish, and you can see some of the character models here just showing how crazy these guys look. Apparently they like to collect these magical shrooms that are very potent for potions, and that the most potent of those potions are gathered by the great shamans of these goblins that then makes these guys apparently really high. But yeah, it's cool to see these guys in the game themselves. Apparently they have very much the tabletop gameplay that you would otherwise expect. So one of those main things that you'll see is right there in the back, the guy lugging around this giant ball. He's going to be a Goblin Fanatic, and these are going to be apparently embedded in the different units. So just like in the tabletop, you don't really know where this Goblin Fanatic is. He could be embedded in a particular force, and all of a sudden you can unleash him. He'll kind of jump out from the ranks, and I'm guessing it'll have some sort of random direction, almost like elephants rampaging. So you can initially choose presumably a direction, and then, like I said, it'll go rampaging after that, likely to kill the opponents, but also kill some of your own troops. So I think so far they've shown themselves to be very true to the tabletop itself for mechanics, and that's what we are going to expect if they were to follow the mechanics for the Fanatics. The units themselves for these goblins are the Night Goblins, I should say, are mainly going to be restricted to these, like I said, archers, and then kind of basic troops like swordsmen. Fanatics can be embedded with each of them, and then you have these kind of higher tier like war bosses or shamans that you can get for the Night Goblins. They are going to have more bonuses when they're underground because they like the night and the dark. Presumably if you have night battles as well, I assume they're going to make an appearance. Also, take a look at the wrist right there. The skull on that Goblin's wrist was a squig, and I'll talk about that in a little bit. So we haven't seen them necessarily on the battlefield, but they are represented right there in that past image. So I was pretty excited to see those. Like I said, we're going to cover those in a little bit. They are cool things that I hope they bring to the battlefield. Again, can't give the artists enough credit for what they've been able to do this game. It just looks so beautiful. Very excited, and especially I want to see this guy in action. It's cool to see it right here in slow motion. We can see a little bit more details, but these Fanatics are going to be so much fun to play on the battlefield itself. So I'm itching to see these guys actually in action, see how they pop out of their ranks and what the mechanics for that is. And they did say that these guys are hidden within the ranks, like I said, but your opponent is not able to tell where they are located in your unit. So that does bear some pretty cool tactical things that you can pull off with these supposedly fodder units. Throw a bunch of fodder units at your opponent, and especially in multiplayer, they would have no idea which one holds the Fanatic. So a lot of cool stuff that you can do with this faction that would otherwise be kind of almost a pure brute strength type of approach. I went ahead and pulled some of the artist renderings and then painted miniatures from the tabletop inspiration of what the Fanatic is supposed to be. But it's I don't know, brutal to say the least. And this is one of the cool things that I really like about the fanatical fantasy approach that they're taking, is they can do all this crazy non-logical stuff that you would see in a history title. Like chariots already are kind of ridiculous in terms of how they can crash through ranks, and they're not very realistic. But here, no one's going to complain if it's not realistic. It's from the tabletop, so they can get really wacky with this stuff. So for instance, here they have a nod to the actuality of reality in that past image where they had a counterweight attached to it, but it's a little guy wielding a huge, massive, multiple hundreds of pounds worth of metal ball. So anyways, I'm excited to see that. And then we're going to talk a little bit more about the goblins in general. So here you can see them with some of their shrooms that they're cooking up in a vat here. Always these tabletop figurines are just glorious, and some of the little creatures that they're holding there are the squig, so I'm going to be showing that soon. These guys are super diminutive. You can see even compared to a dwarf in the bottom right, the Night Goblins are very small, so I'd love to see those guys contrasted with the black orcs. Now they do come here riding some of these spiders as well, so we have seen forest goblins riding spiders. I'm not sure if they're going to include a Night Goblin variant. Perhaps if you upgrade it with the capability to have excel in night battles, maybe it will switch to a Night Goblin. But these guys are definitely ferocious little beasties. And there on the right, you can see the squig, and here are more of these squigs. So apparently these squigs are found deep underground at the World's Edge Mountains and places like that. And so what the goblins do is they go ahead and they kind of collect them from the underground and kind of corral them together and unleash them on the battlefield. And these guys are crazy. They're like monsters. Take all kinds of sizes. You can ride them. You can get them really big, as seen on the right. Maybe we'll even have squig riders. These guys are ferocious. Basically a little ball with tons of muscle and teeth. So can't wait to unleash these on some undead. Just chew through some zombies. Spit back out the bones. And here's one of the bigger models that you saw on the tabletop. Just, there's so much crazy stuff that you can do with this. I really look forward to seeing some of this variety. And of course, it's something that they can't flesh out in the base game that may have to come later in DLC of sorts. Anyways, speaking of DLC, I wanted to talk a little bit about what we see here. And this is going to be the strong dislike to like ratio. And that mostly has to do with the Chaos DLC stuff that is attached to pre-orders. And a little while back, the devs did touch on this, and I want to just relate a little bit of what they had talked about. The big controversy was, of course, the Chaos Warriors being a pre-order only incentive, and what they say here is that they have a separate team working on DLC. This is something they've committed to. It's separate from the team that's doing the base game, and they said that if the base game, team was working on just that title, they would only have the scope and budget in terms of man hours, money, resources to do the 4 factions. But because they have this separate dedicated production team working only on DLC, these guys have been able to focus on making the Chaos Warriors playable. Now, because these guys are working kind of in parallel with the main team, what that allowed them to do, according to CA, is then have what would have been a future DLC, bring it forward in time, create it as a pre-order incentive, what they're saying right here. So basically, what they're saying here is that this Chaos Warriors DLC, content, I guess we'll call it, could have been future DLC, but because the separate team had enough resources to work on it, they were able to move this earlier on in the time frame, have it kind of time up with release, and therefore you don't have to pay for it if you pre-order. Now, they do address the fact that, yes, admittedly pre-orders do create buzz, they improve sales, and so they're going to the meat of the issues. You guys know that we're doing this to boost pre-orders, and here's why. Pre-orders have a very big impact on how well the game does, how well it can monetize, and they say this is just something that we have to do. But they do go ahead and address some of our fears, saying that before release, they do recommend that you check out impressions for YouTubers and others. And the next comment here is very interesting. They say, if for whatever reason we aren't in a position where we can send code out to review and give people enough time to review it before release, we will move the release date back until we can. That is a huge move that I haven't seen reflected elsewhere. That is big. I've never heard of a developer really moving back a release date like that. But it could just be the release date of the Chaos Warriors. I would really like to see them stick to that point because that is very important. Anyways, I'm going to link the developer blog below. Go ahead and check that out. It's very, very important that CA be open with us, and I think they've done their fair share of being open with us, especially in addressing this Chaos Warriors pre-order DLC upfront and personal. Anyways, check that out. I'll link it all below, and looks like we have some more content coming soon with Grimcore Ironhide campaign trailer next week. Anyways, like I said, check the links below for the original content. I'm just here to give you a brief overview. Hope you guys enjoyed. See you in the next one. Peace out.